How much did a tragic 1902 train accident shape how we enter and experience Grand Central Terminal? Pretty significantly. Oh yes, there is history here. Getting into Grand Central by train has become a ritual for roughly 750,000 commuters and travelers per day. Many of these passengers hail from Connecticut and New York. Whether they leave from New Haven or Poughkeepsie, their path into New York City is always the same. Cross a bridge, stop at the Harlem 125th Street station, and then descend below street level into the depths of the city, all before reaching one of Grand Central's subterranean boarding platforms. But have you ever wondered why Grand Central's train platforms are underground? On the surface, the concept doesn't sound out of the ordinary. After all, this is a city that runs on underground transportation. But it wasn't always this way. Instead, this change arose from an innovative solution to a major safety problem that got exposed in one of the worst train accidents in New York City history. It also helped that a relatively new scientific innovation was, shall we say, picking up steam at the time. But first, it's good to have some context about Grand Central itself. Today's Grand Central Terminal is actually the third Grand Central to ever exist. It followed Grand Central Depot, which opened in 1871, and Grand Central Station, which opened in 1900. Shipping and transportation magnate Cornelius Vanderbilt came up with the idea of putting a station on 42nd Street. His reason? To consolidate train service among the major rail companies at the time. One of these companies, the New York Central, would play a major role in the accident that would change everything. Why 42nd Street? It's because the city said so. Initially, rail service extended far downtown, with many tracks on street level. But train pollution, fire hazards, pedestrian safety issues, and depressed real estate values had prompted numerous complaints. As a result, New York City's government banned steam trains past relatively undeveloped 42nd Street in 1857 to reduce the impacts of more residential downtown areas. Beyond there, horses would pull passenger cars the rest of the way. Tracks going to the new depot journeyed along what would become Park Avenue. The dangerous conditions there led to several deadly accidents along grade crossings from 42nd to 59th Streets. Vanderbilt eventually agreed to lower the level of the tracks, creating what is now the Park Avenue Tunnel. However, safety issues still remained. With locomotives arriving at Grand Central at a clip of 1 every 45 seconds, steam and smoke caused frequent visibility issues throughout the tunnel. While several fatal accidents did occur in the tunnel in the late 1800s, things came to a head during morning rush hour on January 8, 1902. That's when a New York Central Line train from White Plains speedily approached Grand Central Station. The New York Times would report that the train's engineer, John Wiscar, sped through multiple signals, verbal shouts, and even warning sounds from a rail torpedo and a 12-inch gong. However, Wiscar asserted that he could not see any of the signals due to excessive steam, smoke, and fog in the tunnel. Had the tunnel conditions been better, he would have realized well in advance that another train was right in front of his. Unfortunately, he wasn't aware of this until he saw the other train's rear passenger car just hundreds of yards ahead. Wiscar tried hitting the engine brakes hard, but it was of no help. The White Plains train collided into the back car of the train in front of it. The rear cars of the other train, which had traveled in from Danbury, Connecticut, were packed with commuters who had boarded at New Rochelle, New York. Sadly, the accident killed 15 passengers and seriously injured many more. The Times would describe the collision as the worst railroad disaster that occurred on Manhattan Island. Amazingly, Wiscar emerged unharmed, albeit in handcuffs. He was not charged with a crime, and the accident motivated New York's legislature to ban steam trains within city limits. The state's decision left the railroad companies in a lurch. How could they accommodate growing rail traffic safely without the help of steam-powered locomotives? The answer, devised by engineer William J. Wilgus, was to make all the lines electric. Not only did this eliminate the smoke issue, but it would also allow the station to move its rail lines and platforms fully underground. Under Wilgus's proposal, this would be accomplished by building the station up vertically and leasing the ground above the tracks to real estate developers to pay for the project. This ended up being one of the earliest uses of air rights. Obviously, Grand Central Station could not accommodate the new electric rails and underground setup. But the third version that stands today, Grand Central Terminal, has been holding up just fine ever since it first welcomed passengers in 1913. Chances are, The average Metro North passenger doesn't think of all this when they step off their train into the hustle and bustle of Grand Central. Still, the 1902 Park Avenue tunnel collision was the wake-up call New York City needed to not only make rail transportation safer within city limits, but to usher in an iconic train terminal to support it. It just goes to show you that, sometimes, history can be hidden in plain sight.